Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing the Fortnite 14 Days of Summer event, which just ended on the day I'm making this video, and why a lot of people believe the results from this event may end up being really important for the future of Fortnite. So in case you guys missed it or weren't really paying attention, the 14 Days of Summer event basically worked like this. Each day for 24 hours, one new LTM was added into the game and one old weapon was brought out of the vault. Now, one thing that we know Epic loves to do is use limited time modes as somewhat of a testing ground for potential changes to introduce into the main Battle Royale game. Not only has Epic directly stated this in the past, but we've seen it happen plenty of times throughout Fortnite's history. Just to name a few changes that started in limited time modes and were eventually moved into the regular game, you have glider redeploy, health and shield per kill, first shot accuracy, faster closing endgame circles, and a bunch of other miscellaneous things as well. Plus, when it comes to the daily weapon unvaults, we know that Epic very closely tracks live statistics regarding weapon usage, such as percentage of kills the player base gets with a specific weapon, and then uses those stats as one of the main indicators for whether certain weapons should be vaulted, unvaulted, or adjusted in any way. And if you guys played at all during the 14 Days of Summer, you would know that whatever weapon was unvaulted on that day would have an insanely high spawn rate. Just as an example, the purple and gold rarity double barrel shotguns were spawning way more frequently than the blue and green rarity pumps, and maybe even more frequently than the lower rarity tac shotguns. That major rarity boost actually makes a lot of sense if Epic's goal was to get a huge sample of feedback regarding those vaulted weapons and how they generally fit into the game. So what I want to do is look at a few of the most interesting core gameplay changes contained in the LTMs, as well as some of the most interesting unvaulted weapons, and analyze how they could possibly be implemented into the regular game, and whether they'd have a positive or negative impact overall. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so just to clarify, I'm not going to be going over all 14 LTMs since a decent amount of them either didn't really have any noteworthy core gameplay changes, or the changes were simply way too crazy to ever be implemented into regular Fortnite. But the first of the 14 LTMs that included some interesting core gameplay changes was the mode Strategic Structures. The three main changes were increased health to metal and brick structures, increased resource farming rate of metal and brick, and a lowered material cap for metal and brick. So this is something that Fortnite has actually experimented with a bit in the past. I believe it was back sometime in Season 5 or 6, they basically gave a buff to the initial health and the total health of both brick and metal building pieces, because wood was just being used so much more frequently in pretty much every situation. And although players will build with brick or metal in certain situations now, most of the time that situation is simply when they run out of wood. So maybe Fortnite wants to try to change that again, and another health buff to brick/metal is something that they're considering. However, I think the most interesting part of Strategic Structures is the increased farming rate, but only for brick and metal. I had never even thought about a change like this before, but now that I've seen it, I think it would actually be perfect. Wood's not only way more abundant on the Fortnite map than brick and metal is, but it's also so much faster to farm. However, if you were to now get, say, 60 or 70 brick from a rock when it used to give you 40 brick, it becomes a lot more balanced now compared to farming something like trees or wood pallets. I think that would be an absolutely perfect change and a much better option than just buffing the health of metal/brick. And you actually saw almost the exact same thing in another one of the 14 LTMs named Heavy Metal. In that mode, the structure health of metal building pieces wasn't changed at all, but there was an increased farming rate for metal materials only. So to see that same experimental change in two different LTMs, I feel like it's definitely noteworthy. The next set of interesting gameplay tweaks comes from the Builder's Paradise LTM. The three main changes in this one were greatly increased health of player-built structures, a faster farming rate for all materials, and neutral editing turned on, which means anyone can edit any player-built wall. So again, much like in the Strategic Structures LTM, you see more experimentation with an increase to structure health and a faster farming rate. But I think that hands down the most noteworthy change from Builder's Paradise is having neutral editing turned on. If you guys remember, this was something that they previously tested maybe 5 or 6 months ago in a competitive pop-up cup. The feedback ended up being mostly negative though, so it was never implemented into anything else. But I feel like the timing of this is really interesting because one of the hottest topics in the Fortnite community right now is the advantage of lower ping. And the biggest advantage of having really low ping is how easy it is to take other players' walls. So even though I don't think neutral editing would work the way it currently is because it makes third partying even more OP, I think it's a possibility that with some creative thinking of ways to make it operate better could potentially be a really game-changing and innovative solution to one of Fortnite's biggest problems that almost seems unfixable. The final core gameplay change I want to quickly mention was from the LTM named Use With Care. In this mode, everybody started the game with a set amount of materials, and you weren't able to farm any more for the rest of the match. Now, not being able to farm materials obviously is something that would never make its way into the main game, but the idea of everybody starting the match with a set amount of mats is actually an idea that the Fortnite community has discussed many times in the past. You definitely wouldn't want it to be a lot of materials, but even something like 50 total would at least give you somewhat of a chance to protect yourself if, say, you and your opponent both land on the same chest and he ends up getting the gun. Now that we've covered the most interesting major gameplay changes from the 14 Days of Summer LTMs, let's talk about some of the 14 unvaulted weapons. I think the most interesting unvaulted weapon we got was actually the heavy shotgun. If you guys remember, based on some hints involving the in-game loading screen for Season 9, we really thought the heavy shotgun was going to be unvaulted this season as kinda the replacement to the pump, but that obviously ended up not being the case. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't impressed at all by the heavy shotgun when I used it. I think it was considerably worse than the combat and noticeably worse than the pump. I honestly felt like I had more success with the other unvaulted shotgun from the 14 Days of Summer, which was again the double barrel. The next intriguing unvaulted weapon was the Tactical SMG. I think the TAC SMG would easily be the best SMG in the game if it were to be unvaulted without any kind of significant nerf. It's basically the suppressed SMG with slightly less damage per shot, but a way higher fire rate, DPS, and 5 extra shots per clip. I know a lot of people love the nostalgia of this weapon and would want to see it be unvaulted just because of that, but based on playing with it for that one day, I think it's simply way too good and would have an overall negative impact on the game. And the final unvaulted weapon I want to discuss is the Suppressed Scar. This is one of those weapons that I personally believe should have never been vaulted in the first place. I think it's a perfectly balanced weapon that's better than the normal ARs, but also slightly worse than the regular Scars. And right now in Fortnite, there's only 2 ARs that the vast majority of players are even comfortable using, the regular AR and the Scar. So out of all the weapons that we saw temporarily unvaulted during the 14 Days of Summer event, I think the Suppressed Scar is the biggest no-brainer to bring back into the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. If you played during the 14 Days of Summer event, let me know either what your favorite LTM was, or what your favorite unvaulted weapon was. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.